Hey everyone, this is Tom and welcome to another edition of Saturday Sketching. For this project, you'll need paper, pencils, a good eraser, and a ruler. Today we're going to be working on a seasonal triptych. But what is a triptych? A triptych is 3 separate panels displayed together side by side to create a full picture. We're going to be working together to create a time-lapse triptych that represents a transition from winter to spring, featuring a little snowman. So let's get to work. Okay, so starting this project is going to be a little bit more complicated than usual. So what I'm going to do is map out the 3 pages that we're going to be using because we want them to be consistent. So we're going to grab our pencil and our ruler. And if you have 3 pieces of paper to start, you can line them up sort of together and use your ruler to kind of eyeball the middle of it and draw a straight line down to represent the middle. Now, if you don't have all 3 right now, don't worry about it. You know, you can come back to this, but I would recommend doing it this way. That way you can have everything be consistent from the beginning and you don't have to go back and figure it out later on. So grab each page, use your pencil and your ruler to kind of draw a line down the middle. It doesn't have to be perfect, you can sort of eyeball it. You want to keep the line a bit light. I'm going a bit dark so you can see it in the video, but you want to try to keep it a little bit light so that you can erase it later without too much problem. So now you got 3 papers that have the line down the middle. We'll be able to map out the drawing on each one pretty consistently thanks to that. Now what I'm going to do is the same thing but horizontally. Just line them up as close as you can. Grab your ruler. Try to eyeball where the middle is. You know, again, doesn't have to be perfect. Just do the best you can. Draw a line across. Yeah, that's definitely not perfectly in the middle, but we're going to go with it anyway because it's not a big deal. So let's see. Grab each one individually. Follow the line through to the end. Yeah, this one's a little top high, but you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect piece of art, I would say. But that also could just be an excuse. No big deal either way. We're gonna do that. We're doing this for fun. So it doesn't have to be perfect. So, okay. Now you should have 3 pieces of paper that have this sort of cross going on. Again, you want to do it kind of light so that it is easier to erase later on, but no big deal if you go a bit dark. You just have to do a little bit of extra erasing later on. So the planning of this one is already a lot more complicated than our usual stuff, but you know, a little planning will make it go smoothly. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to plan out exactly where on the page our snowman is going to go. That way we can keep it consistent with the drawings that follow. So what I'll do here, I'm just going to draw a little line here with the ruler right there. And that'll sort of signify where the top of the snowman's head is going to be. And then I'll draw a line somewhere down here, just like that, and that'll represent the bottom. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect with where I've got it, but you know, you sort of feel it out and look at it and and decide what you think looks best, like where on the page you think it'll look best. You have to try to visualize the snowman on the page before he's actually there. And what you can do later on, you don't necessarily have to do this right now, but I'll do it just to, you know, show you how. Now, when you take your second page that we'll be using to work on, you just line it up use your ruler. Ruler is going to be very important in this project. And just make those little lines in the same spots. That way, when we take the image and change it and evolve it in the second page, it'll still be consistent where everything else is on the page. So take your second page, take your third page, measure them up. Create your lines this way. Nice and light. Like I said, I'm doing things a little bit darker so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Yeah, make sure everything lines up pretty good. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just so you have an idea. Okay, so from here, this is the part where I usually just go straight into the drawing. And why don't we go ahead and do that? So I'm going to start at the top of the snowman over here. Just draw a nice big circle. Not big, but, you know, big enough. You can do it in a more sketchy way than I did it. I sort of did a solid line, but if you're more comfortable scribbling it or like, you know, sketching it across like that, if that keeps the shape consistent, you can do it that way. That's a great way to do it. Down here, I'll have to figure out where the middle of his body's going to be. See, I'm doing the sort of sketchy version now. It's a little bit easier. You have a little bit more control when you do things this way of what the shape is going to look like. You know, you don't have to trust that your arm's going to handle the whole thing all the way across. Now for the bottom, we'll make this one nice and wide. A little bit squashy, but that's okay. I don't know if you ever seen a snowman in real life, but it's rarely a perfect circle on all three sides, so you don't have to worry about that. Just tell people you're going for realism if the circles aren't exactly perfect. Okay, so there's the body of our snowman. Can add all the fun stuff. Gonna draw some eyes. And we're gonna, remember, we're doing, the idea of this drawing is that this guy is gonna melt. So we wanna draw objects that we're gonna be able to draw in a way where they'll be sort of sliding down or melting with the snow as it slowly transitions into water. So just try to keep that in mind when you're designing your snowman here. Give him a little carrot nose, like that. We got some, what is it, coal or just, I don't know, pebbles? I don't know what people usually use for this sort of stuff, but you give him his snowman smile. Try to have an even number. It's always more satisfying when there's an even number on each side. 3 here, 3 here. Not an even number, but the same amount is what I mean to say. Same amount of numbers on this side as there are on this side. So he's looking pretty happy. From here, I'm going to go ahead and add his arms. And, you know, when you're done here, you can, you know, with these details, you can always add more things if you're feeling confident to them, hats and scarves and things like that. Just remember that you're going to have to add that stuff in later on when we're changing the drawing. So, you know, it's got to stay consistent. So, like, if we're going to have a scarf in this one, we're going to have to also incorporate a scarf into this one and the next one. So, just try to keep that in mind. I think I'm going to go with a plain snowman for now, but feel free to add whatever details you'd like to add. Maybe I'll add one thing, which is a hat. I love hats. Anybody who knows me knows I love hats. So I'm going to give this guy a nice top hat. And you can fill it in if you want. You don't have to. If no one's ever taught you this trick before, so I know it's hard to scribble in all the details here. But if you're not afraid of getting your fingers a little dirty, you can smudge the pencil lead to kind of make it look like it's more filled in. I never do it exactly right. But, you know, and it's easier to do with different materials. Number 2 pencil isn't always going to do it exactly right. But, you know, you can give it a try. And if you like that sort of stuff, you can look into, you know, doing it with different tools. Of course, then you got smudges to worry about, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. You can erase a little bit where it gets to be a bit too smudgy. There we go. Okay, so he's got a hat. I'm going to give him some of those buttons that snowmen always seem to have. There's 2. And there's 3. Now, from here, this is sort of the important part, or one of the important, they're all important parts, let's be honest. But now we have to sort of figure out where the ground is in relation to him and the background elements. We're going to try to keep it pretty simple for the background elements. You don't have to add a ton of detail, but the more stuff we have in the background, the more we'll have to transition those things as well as the snowman. It really adds to the effect if you have more things, but you know, you shouldn't, you know, force yourself to do stuff you're not comfortable with. So do whatever you can. What we're going to do here now is I'm going to use my ruler again. Don't bring it all the way down to right at the bottom of where he is. You want to try to bring it a little bit past him, because the rule of perspective will sort of show you that it'll create the illusion that there's more land behind him. If you draw it right at the bottom of his body, then it'll look really flat. So we're going to go up a little bit past him just to show that there's more going on behind. Like, you can kind of see it if you use this line to sort of observe. Like, you can kind of imagine that there's this long amount of field behind him. Like, all this area behind him is probably land. So it sort of creates the illusion that there's more going on. So I'm going to come back here. Yeah, right about here. Draw another line. And if it would help you, you can go back to your other pages, line them up, and, you know, make sure the background is consistent. That might not have been perfect on my end, but yeah, okay, there we go, it works. So that you have it ready to go for later. It's one less thing you have to do in the next video, in the next session. Just line it up with your page. Okay, so now those are out of the way. Now for the background elements, we're going to add a couple fun things. Just 3 or 4 different things that'll sort of spice up the drawing. And what I'm going to start with over here is we're going to do a little tree. Not a little tree, but, you know, a tree. Just like that. I have one branch coming up over here, like that. I like drawing trees because I don't have to be consistent with the way I draw my lines. They can be kind of shaky and wobbly and crooked, and it actually looks more like what trees actually look like. That's one of the great things about drawing trees. So I always enjoy drawing trees. And you can design your tree however you'd like, but you want to design it while keeping in mind that we're going to be adding branches and bushes to this by the end of our project. Because we want this tree to go from winter mode to spring mode. That's what we're doing with all this stuff, winter to spring. And so you want to keep that in mind when you're designing these elements. So down here, just going to add a little pile of snow. Again, the great thing about nature, everything is sort of inconsistent. There aren't perfect lines in a lot of stuff in nature, so you can kind of go crooked, and one side can pile up a little bit more than the other, and it feels real because that's the way things are in the real world. Now at this point, because the tree sort of goes into our background here, we can sort of erase this line that's in the tree. That way the tree is now, appears to be in front of the horizon line. I'll erase this too, since we're going to be done with this soon. You can wait until the end to erase these lines if you feel comfortable. I'm just going to erase that one so that it's not in our way. Okay, so from here, I'm going to add a little bit of detail to the trees. Interior. Add some detail to the bark there. There you go. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of snow. Now it's going to, it's not going to go straight across, but it's also not going to go vertically down because then it would have slipped off. So you want to try to make it so that it's sort of somewhere in the middle where it would sort of sit on top of the tree as it is. And you can add more detail to the tree so that the snow is sort of set apart. If you want, no big deal. You can scribble it in if you want. You don't have to. But just so that the snow stands out a little bit more against the tree. Add a little bit more detail there. Okay. So there's that. There's our little tree. Now we're going to come over to this side. And I sort of had this silly idea that maybe we'll do a little lake with a fish in it. And, I think that might be fun. We can sort of have him look like he's frozen in the wintertime, and then the ice will melt, and he will pop out and be able to swim again in the warmer water. So let's start by doing a line with our ruler. Again, ruler is super useful here. Come down a little bit past where our background horizon line is, and you want to draw a straight line. Not going all the way across, but, the majority of the way across. You want to leave a little bit of gap here and there. And because this lake or pond or whatever it is going to be behind our snowman, we want to sort of do another line, not too far down. The farther down you push the line, the wider the lake or pond is going to look. And we sort of want it to look not as wide because it's behind him. So then we want to connect these lines, like that, so that it's relatively consistent. Doesn't have to be perfect. But there you go. A little bit of ice. And what I'm going to do is add some details here that suggest it's broken ice. And we're going to have a little cube popping out like that. Is this the way it works in real life? Probably not, but it's fun for our little cartoon. So let's erase these elements back here. And I'm going to have my little fish on the inside. And he's sort of like, oh no, I'm trapped in ice. You can imagine. So he's a little nervous. There we go. So there he is, trapped in ice. What's he gonna do? Wait for it to melt. Now, we don't have to add too much more. Maybe to add a little bit of detail, I'm gonna pile up the snow over here. Just so that the snowman's got more to work with here. He's sort of piled in there. And this will sort of be stuff that we melt out, you know, in the next couple of steps to make it look more like grass and things like that. I am going to add some clouds in the sky over here. I like to draw them kind of flat at the bottom and then big and puffy up top. And again, you can do this, there's no perfect way to do this. Just big puffy lines up top and sort of flatter, thinner lines at the bottom. And what we're gonna do later is, in the next couple of drawings, these clouds are gonna part, and then, you know, the sun will come out and, you know, all that good stuff. It'll suggest more warm weather. Okay, so from here, all I think that's left to do is get rid of our little grid here. Now, the grid is tricky because you might want to use it to guide you along in later steps. We're going to keep this drawing nearby in the next video and the third video, so we can sort of keep things consistent and figure out where everything is. So, you know, you want to keep it visible for now, the grid, so that we can use it later on to kind of measure out where everything's going to go. But, you know, once we're done with everything, we'll erase the grids and we'll have our final finished drawings stand for themselves. Okay, so there you have it. This is drawing number 1, all done, ready to go. Next time we'll get to a point where we'll be slightly melted, but not all the way. So that's going to be probably the most complex one to do. We have to make it look melted, but not completely. And, you know, I'll show you how to do that. We'll connect the new drawing to our old drawing, and we'll go from there. Thank you for joining me this time around. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.